Does your ex really know what they want? So many people will think that because the ex said something at the breakup, that means it's all over. Or even if the ex says you should move on, or there's no hope, or we're not getting back together, that means there's absolutely no chance of the two of you getting back together. And sometimes a breakup is permanent. I'm not interested in giving anyone false hope. But a lot of relationships can be saved. A lot of breakups can end up with two people who get back together and have a greater appreciation for the relationship and the other person. And I have seen it many, many times. And so I'm confident when I say there is a good chance if you two had a good relationship, and that means that you two did have commitment, companionship, you had good memories together, you had inside jokes, you had all the things that make a relationship great, and things just seem to fade away. It doesn't have to be over. You can oftentimes get back together with your ex, even if they are telling you that they don't ever want to get back together, or that they know what they want and they want something without you, a future without you. Even then, the relationship can be saved. And here's why. At the breakup event where your ex is saying, I want to break up, it's based on a concept or a theory. They don't know for sure that they want the breakup. That's why so many people, when someone applies the no contact rule, that they do hear from this other person. Because just because something seems to be a good idea in your mind, it doesn't mean that when you actually apply it, when you actually experience it in real life, that you're going to like it as much. A lot of things seem great when you're just conceptualizing it in your brain and you're even putting it down on paper. It just sounds great, but many wonderful sounding plans don't work out, especially when you're dealing with a response that you haven't experienced before. Your ex has not experienced their response to losing you, most likely. Now, if we're talking about multiple breakups, even then it can be different. And a lot of times, if they're in the relationship with you, they begin to take it for granted. And so they think, well, I've done this before. I've been away from him before. I've been away from her before. So it'll be fine. But if they have gotten themselves to that place where they're taking the relationship for granted and then they have to back away from it, a lot of times that's a reality check. It's especially true if this is the first breakup. Your ex can think that there's a beautiful sunset they're going to ride off into that does not include you. And it may even seem that way for them for a time. I have a video called Stages Your Ex Goes Through During No Contact, and I talk about that first week or two, sometimes a little bit longer, that I call the relief stage. It's when your ex is glad they've gotten the breakup over with, and it feels like they can just move on. That you are going to be unscathed because they really don't want to think about you hurting. They want to think that you'll hurt a little bit because it would hurt their ego if you didn't. So they want you to be in pain for a little bit, but then you get over it so they don't have to think about you being in pain because your ex is not a monster, right? And if they are, then you don't want them back anyway. But they want you to be unscathed and to be able to be happy and not hurt, even though they secretly want to be able to get you back anytime they want, if they wanted to. And that's something I talk a lot about in other videos, that's where a lot of times attraction can be at least kept from falling even more, is when your ex begins to realize that maybe they couldn't get you back at any time. You see, that's when they actually have to look at this realistically, and they have to feel this realistically. Otherwise, it's a fake breakup. And that's why it's so important for you to give them the breakup, because they may think they can be without you forever, but they haven't tried it yet. And so they get the relief stage to where they think that you're not happy about things and you hurt, but that you will be able to get out of the pain. So they get the best of both worlds in thinking that you will hurt for them, but you'll get out of the pain and they can get you back whenever they want you. It is important that you allow them to get past that relief stage as quickly as possible. And that's why it's so important that you don't contact them. People will tell me, well, I just thought it was important to keep the lines of communication open. Coach Lee, I know I saw your videos and you talked about no contact, but I just thought it was important to keep the lines of communication open. Or it was her birthday and I didn't want her to feel bad that I wasn't going to wish her a happy birthday. And yet the whole point of this is that they need to feel your absence as quickly as possible and as thoroughly as possible. The easier that you make it on them, the less likely you will be able to get them back. And I don't mean that you be cold or rude to them at all. But what I'm saying is, if they want a breakup, you've got to give them a breakup. It's sort of like a recent story where someone told me about how their son wanted a dog. And he said, "Dad, I want to get a dog. I want to get a puppy." And the dad said, "Oh, really? Do you want to get up at 2 a.m. and take the puppy out in the cold to go to the bathroom?" And his son said, "No, because I have school in the morning. I have to get up early." "Oh, okay. Do you want to spend the money to buy the dog food?" "No, Dad, I don't have a job. I was hoping you could do that part." "Oh, okay. And do you want to train the dog so that he doesn't pee on the carpet? And when he does, are you going to clean it up?" "Dad, that sounds really gross, and I don't know how to do that. And I have baseball practice after school. I don't know when I'd have time." "Oh, okay." And so it went on and on like this. And I actually interrupted and said, "So he doesn't want a dog. He just wants the concept of a dog." And his concept was the cute little videos where the dog sits and you pet him on the head and you play fetch. That's what he wanted. He didn't want the real pictures that we don't see, where people are having to do things that are unpleasant to take care of this dog. And so until he was ready for those things, he really wasn't ready for a dog. And the same is true with your ex. And yes, I realize I compare your ex to a dog quite a bit in my videos, and I'm not sorry for that. In this case, it's true. Your ex may think they're ready for a breakup. But if they're not ready to be without you, if they're not ready to not hear from you, to not get the text, to not get those calls at night to tell you goodnight or those kisses goodnight or those things, then they're not ready for a breakup. And that's what they have to see very quickly. And oftentimes in life, we think we want something, and it can be in the course of a day that we change our minds over and over. And your ex has likely gone back and forth with this quite a bit themselves. This didn't just happen overnight. This probably took weeks, months, maybe even longer before your ex decided they wanted to break up with you. That's why when they broke up with you, it probably seemed like they were a brick wall. You were trying to talk them out of it. Maybe you cried, you begged, and it just didn't seem to affect them much. Now, they might have responded to your pain. They might have said, "I'm sorry." But a lot of times people report that their ex is just cold and certain, and there's no talking them out of it. And that's because they've already had this conversation with themselves. They've already had the questions. They've already rechecked their feelings over and over and over again. A lot of times they would even say, maybe just one more weekend, maybe just one more date, and then I'll feel what I need to feel to stay in this. But they didn't. And so they think they want the breakup. But even then, they're basing this on concept. And so when they actually have to be without you, that's when they can start to see that they were taking you and the relationship for granted. And that's what you have to give them quickly, because you're not going to be able to talk them out of it. The way you change the mind of your ex is to give them what they think they want. And this is where it gets complex, because your ex will kind of go back and forth a lot of times, even in their own mind. And that's when they reach out to you and they see how you're doing. And it seems kind of odd, kind of casual. Like, why are they reaching out to me? Do they really just want to say what's up and hear me say, "Yeah, I'm doing pretty good"? And there's nothing really said? Do they really not want to talk about the relationship or the breakup? A lot of times they're seeing first if you'll actually respond to them. And that's why it's important to respond to them and to not ignore them, because they're seeing if these feelings they're having, these doubts about the breakup, or maybe they want to get back together, they're seeing if they could actually communicate with you about that, if that could actually happen. Because if they don't hear from you, what that can actually do is it can prevent them from going down that path in their mind where they just kind of think, well, I can't get them back anyway. I can't even talk to them. They don't want to talk to me. I've just blown it. It's over with. And so a lot of times they're seeing if you will actually have a conversation with them. If they get deeper than that, then that's something that you should discuss with them. But I strongly suggest and recommend that you don't bring up the relationship status, the breakup, how you've been feeling, that kind of thing, that you keep it casual and light and even a touch positive, like you're having a good experience. That's not something you should say. Like, you shouldn't say, "Man, this breakup is awesome. Best thing that ever happened to me." But it should maybe be implied a little bit that you're having a good day today. Things are going like you want them to, and you're looking forward to something. Let that come out in your words a little bit, even if it's just really casual and light. Be sure to take a look at my emergency breakup kit. It's a powerful culmination of my 20 years in the relationship coaching service, and it's a guide that can help you get your ex back. It's basically me holding your hand and helping you to reattract your ex and get back together with them. So take a look at that. You can see that at myexbackcoach.com or take a look at the link in the description below. Another thing that's important to remember about this is that your ex will try to gauge where you are in this whole thing. In other words, can they get you back? Is that a possibility? Or are you gone forever? And you walk a tightrope in this situation because you don't want them to think that they can just get you back in a snap. You want them to think that there's potential here, but you want them to see your strength so that they can know there could be a point, and that point is approaching, where you could move on and you could not be gotten back. And we want them to have some concern that maybe that point is now, but we don't want it to be certain. You see, that's where I talk a lot about mystery. Mystery is when you don't know the answer either way. And it's a lot more powerful than having the answer, because mystery and the question, the reason you chase these rabbit holes at night on the internet and you dig and you try to find the answer is because you don't know the answer. That's where all that energy and that motivation comes from. And you want that from your ex. Now, that doesn't mean you play hard to get. That will actually end up putting up a wall where they feel that maybe they have the answer, especially if they've had to deal with a lot of rejection. So ideally, you want it to where your ex feels like they could communicate with you, but they don't fully know where your heart is right now. When you combine that with the fact that your ex is having to witness your ability to stay away from them and not to contact them, they will be able to project in their mind that you could stay away from them permanently, that you are strong enough to stay away, that they could lose you. And you see, that's usually not something that they anticipate. And you may say, well, why do they care if they lose me? They wanted to break up with me. Breaking up with you was something your ex did from a point of control. They were in a place where they were calling the shots. They didn't lose anything because they were in control of the situation. When you lose something is when you don't have control. And I often use the example of a dictator. This person has an army, this person has total control and can take anything away from you at any moment, and you can do nothing about it. And all you can really do is beg for mercy if this person decides they want to take what you have. And so if you make your ex your dictator to where you're begging and pleading, asking for mercy, trying to bribe them, keeping in touch with them just so they'll know that they can still get you back anytime they want, you're keeping them in a place of control. It's really quite a place of privilege to where they think at any moment they could get you back if they wanted you, and you are simply giving them more proof of that with your continual actions of contacting them, telling them that you want to get back together, begging, pleading, and you will keep them in a point of control where they won't feel loss. And you see, loss is where they have to be. They have to get to a point of fearing they're going to lose you, or even fearing maybe that they already have lost you. That's when your ex can really get a reality check and they can feel the pain of a real breakup. Until your ex gets to that point, they really don't know what they want.